The story begins as we meet the genius Prince Cecil, who impresses his teacher as he creates an original formula to solve a problem. His teacher realizes he just made a discovery in the world of math and rushes to inform everyone, but Cecil finds it boring that he understands everything so easily. After that, Cecil meets his fiancée Tia, but she surprises him by saying she's the villainess who will steal him from the heroine and leave him heartbroken. As they have tea, he introduces his butler Zeno, but he notices she's staring at him, so he asks her what's wrong. She finds it strange how he's so composed for his age, and wonders if he was reincarnated, but he explains that he's simply behaving like a royal. Zeno doesn't agree with what he said, but Cecil can hear his thoughts, and he asks Tia to explain what she meant earlier. She reveals that she has memories of her past life, where she used to play dating sims, and she thinks they're in one of those games. She notes that Cecil will fall in love with a noble girl named Heronia, while she'll become a jealous villainess who will make the heroine suffer. She explains that he'll break their engagement when he learns about it and push her family to ruin, but she knows he'll find happiness with Heronia after she's defeated, so she plans to become a first-rate flower of evil. He thinks about how it's the first time he can't understand what someone is saying, but he thinks it isn't an issue as long as it doesn't interfere with her role as future queen. He wonders what she means by first-rate flower of evil, so she describes it as a strong and beautiful woman who walks toward destruction without hesitation. He looks at her and realizes she doesn't fit that description, but she explains that he misunderstood her and notes that her character was never pretty, but she'll express herself since she was shy in her past life. He still can't understand her, but she leaves and tells him she'll improve herself before their next meeting. He tells Zeno he finds her interesting, even though she lacks the manners expected of someone who would stand beside royalty, so he plans to observe and guide her as needed. Zeno thinks he's enjoying himself, so he admits that he likes unpredictability, since he has always achieved everything on his first attempt, which makes it all boring, and he hopes she'll live up to his expectations. After a year, Cecil learns that Tia has shut herself in her house, but he remains calm since he knows what she's up to. A few days later, Cecil meets Tia, who thinks he won't recognize her, but he isn't surprised that her appearance has changed, since he received reports that she's been working out. She asks him if he mistook her for someone else, but her father Marquis Naudus scolds her for being rude to him and apologizes for her behavior. He explains that it's okay, since he finds her behavior adorable, which makes her flustered, and she asks him to repeat what he just said. Naudus reminds her not to be fooled by his appearance, since his eyes never seem to smile, and he lacks the warmth to find something cute. But he assures her she's adorable, which shocks Cecil since he's even worse than she is. As they have tea together, Tia's fox suddenly jumps off her neck, and she explains that it has never left her since she found it. He offers her the cake, but she refuses to eat it since she's on a diet, so he assures her it was made with less sugar, and she quickly starts to eat it. He thinks she's moving away from her goal of becoming a villainess, and he tells her that at tomorrow's party, she shouldn't tell the others about her goal in past life. He explains that in high society, a true villainess should never expose herself so easily, since it would leave her open to attacks. She likes his idea, and thinks he's asking her to focus more on actions instead of talking big, and he tells her he wants to celebrate his 11th birthday with her. She suddenly starts to cry, as she notes that in the coming summer, her mother will die from an epidemic, and she notes that the disease can only be treated by a rare herb called the luana leaf. Cecil thinks they still have time to change the future, but she hesitates since she's worried that the scenario will change, so he asks her if it matters more than her mother. She chooses her mother, but she's worried that the story will be affected if they change the scenario, and he assures her he won't leave her side as her fiancé. Tia meets Cecil after a year, but she isn't happy with him, because every time she wrote a letter to discuss their strategy for the epidemic, he only told her everything is fine. She also wonders why the disease never spread, so he reveals that the epidemic happened just like she said, but he used the information she gave him to create a cure in advance. She doesn't understand what he means, so he explains that right after their conversation, he cultivated the luana leaf and used it to create a cure. But he knew the adults wouldn't take him seriously if he told them about it, so he guided a doctor into making it instead. He explains that when the disease showed up, they suppressed it before it could spread further, but she wonders why he would go that far, so he tells her he can't ignore something that makes her worried. She can't believe an 11-year-old can do so much, but he explains that he has access to the royal library and experts, so it's nothing out of the ordinary, but Zeno silently disagrees with him. After that, he gives her a necklace he made for her birthday, and notes that it's a universal antidote, which will protect her in case she falls ill. She promises to repay him by becoming an amazing villainess, and even plans to turn her father into a villain, but he thinks losing a chancellor will cause problems. He realizes she isn't listening to him, and she notes that she wants him to have a happy ending with the heroine, so he just watches her and thinks her determination is amusing. After a year, Cecil meets Nadas, who's exhausted since Tia has been trying to turn him into a proper villain, and she even prepared notes on how to commit crimes. Cecil looks at them, and he's impressed since the numbers on embezzlement and fraud are realistic, which makes him wonder if she got that information from her previous life. He tells Nadas she might just be in a phase where she's drawn to bad personalities, and Nadas wonders why she isn't targeting Cecil instead, and he thinks it's because she loves Nadas. Nadas notes that it might be true, and he thinks Cecil's evil-mindedness tends to leak out, which is why she decided not to bother him. Nadas worries about their upcoming social debut, so Cecil assures him he'll support Tia, but thinks he might just sit back and watch if things get interesting. The day finally arrives, and Cecil praises how beautiful Tia looks, but she wonders if he needs a favor from her, since she has plans to turn her father into a villain. They arrive at the hall, where Tia impresses Cecil with her manners, and he thinks she isn't doing a good job as a villainess, since she's acting like an ideal noble. A man named Viscount Sabir praises Tia as he greets her, but he's too comfortable around her, so Cecil wonders how they're connected. She whispers that she wants to discuss something with him, but Cecil makes up an excuse and pulls her away. He asks her about the information in her villain manual, so she admits that it came from Sabir, but she's embarrassed that he read the notes. She explains how Sabir is the one who pushed her father down the villainous path, so she did everything she could to become friends with him, but Cecil tells her he's an evil man who preys on young girls. He wonders if Sabir ever laid a hand on her, so she recalls their interactions, which makes her realize he's actually a bad person. Cecil tells her he won't forgive anyone who lays a hand on her, and wonders if she had contact with anyone else, so she mentions 2 other names, but notes that she hasn't met them directly. He tells her to stop putting herself in danger, but she thinks he's telling her to be more careful when she interacts with them, so she promises not to mess up. He realizes it's the perfect chance to clean out the corruption in the kingdom, so he tells Nadas that the 3 nobles are plotting something, and notes that they have already made contact with Tia. Nadas becomes angry hearing this, but Cecil assures him they haven't crossed the red line yet, and tells him to gather evidence against them, so he promises to crush them with his own hands. Cecil spends 6 months at the academy, but he becomes bored, and thinks his life would be more interesting if Tia were around. She suddenly runs toward him, and notes that they have a baby on the way, so the other students gossip about them. He wonders who's pregnant, so she tells him her mother is expecting a child, and she realizes how bad she sounded earlier. She explains that they haven't even kissed, while Cecil threatens everyone with his stare, and they realize they'll be punished if rumors spread about them. He offers to escort her back, but she tells him she's embarrassed after what she did, and he teases her that he'll kiss her, so she rushes out of there at full speed. After 6 months, Cecil visits Tia's house, where he sees her little brother, but he notices she's sad. She tells him their family was supposed to adopt a talented boy named Durs, because they had no heir, and he would become one of Cecil's aides, but the scenario changed since her mother survived. She thinks it's good that it avoids a path where Durs ends up with Heronia, but it surprises Cecil, since she told him he was the one destined to be with Heronia. She explains that there are actually multiple possible outcomes depending on Heronia's choices, and he thinks that if that's the case, there's no reason for them to break their engagement. Tia seems to be against it, and notes that he wants her to end up with Heronia, but he notices there's something she isn't telling him. He asks about the other possible candidates who can become his aide, so she tells him about Vault, Charles, Nelt, and the second Prince Sean. Cecil thinks he should take her memories seriously, but she's afraid that her brother might get harmed, so he tells her not to worry, and notes that he'll handle the issue of Durs attending the academy. After that, Cecil visits Durs, and asks him about the local lord he's been hearing complaints about. Durs notes that the lord isn't a bad person, but he's just too harsh in his tone, which is why he has a bad reputation. Cecil is impressed with his answer, and asks him to join a noble family, since he needs him to work as a spy. Durs swears his loyalty to Cecil, since he considers it an honor to work for him, and Cecil tells Tia that Durs will attend the academy as planned. She's happy that Nodus is getting along with the corrupt nobles, but she doesn't know he's working as Cecil's spy, and she fears that Heronia might draw the attention of multiple partners. Cecil thinks it's impossible, since a queen having an affair is a treasonous offense, but she thinks he won't be able to leave Heronia if he falls in love with her. He tells her it's impossible, so she mentions that Heronia could have used charm magic, but she thinks magic doesn't exist in this world. He reveals that spirits do exist in this world, and notes that Zeno is his spirit animal, just like Kuro is hers. He asks her where she found Kuro, so she reveals that she found it in the forest, and it licked her wound after she got injured, so she took a liking to it and gave it a name. Cecil explains that she accidentally formed a contract with a high-level darkness spirit, and makes Zeno pull out a stack of books, telling her to study them to understand spirits. We see that Cecil has become the student council president, and he welcomes all the new students, including Tia. In the student council office, everyone discusses how beautiful Tia is, and Sean wants to be friends with her, since she'll become his sister-in-law. Vault is impressed by her legs, and thinks she must have trained hard, but Charles thinks a noble lady like her would never train, so Cecil reveals that she's been working out. Charles asks Durs about her, since he was part of the same family, but Durs mentions that she was part of the main house, so he never had a chance to meet her. Cecil tells everyone he needs to leave to meet her, which surprises Charles, because he was never interested in anyone in the past, so he explains that he's only interested in people worth his time. Charles thinks they should all join him since they want to meet her, and Cecil allows them to come with him, but on his way, he notices a girl chasing her pet bird, and he tells Durs to do something for him. As Tia drinks tea with her friends, she's surprised to see the whole student council coming to meet her with Cecil, and he notices Kuro, who has taken a human form. Cecil's cousin Joanna mentions how Tia has been impatiently waiting for him, but she claims it isn't true and calls her friends minions. He notes that she shouldn't call her friends minions, so she apologizes for being mean, but Joanna mentions it's okay, since they're all part of her secret fan club, and their duty is to watch over her. Cecil gives her a pot of blue flowers, which he made especially for her, but she thinks she can't accept such a rare gift, so he wonders if she doesn't like them. She finds them beautiful, and sees a depth in them just like his blue eyes, but she becomes embarrassed since everyone can hear her. As they leave, she's relieved that even though parts of the scenario have changed, the meet and greet took place as planned, but he wonders what she means. She asks him if he met the girl chasing a bird on his way to meet her, and he notes that he found her suspicious, so he told Durs to report her to the teacher. Tia becomes upset, since he was supposed to give the girl a flower from the bouquet he got for her, but he thinks that wasn't possible since he got her a whole pot of flowers. She wonders if he felt anything when he saw the girl, but he notes that she left a bigger impression when they first met, so she thinks the meet and greet event has been ruined. He apologizes for hurting her, and she tells him that since it has already happened, there's no point in being sad. After that, Cecil calls Joanna to the student council room, and he notes that it was unexpected to see her at the tea party, so she admits that Tia naturally draws everyone toward her. He wonders if anyone in their fan club could be a risk to Tia, but Joanna refuses to tell him anything, so he threatens to expose that she's secretly investigating Sean. He knows she's into him, but she becomes angry and calls Cecil a black-hearted schemer. She can't believe he's related to Sean, and thinks he doesn't deserve to be Tia's fiancé, but he wonders if she's jealous. She tells him it isn't true, but he starts to tease her, so Zeno notes that he shouldn't push her too much. She gives him a list of people who don't like Tia since they're jealous of her, and he immediately notices Heronia's name, so he thinks things are about to get interesting. Joanna thinks he should be concerned, but he trusts Joanna to take care of things since they think alike, and she accepts the responsibility. Cecil thinks Heronia is the real threat, because she probably has light-based abilities, and he isn't sure if Kuro can protect Tia, since she can't use her abilities openly against a human opponent. He heads out to meet Tia in the garden, but he sees Heronia resting under a tree, and he knows that Tia is hiding in the bushes with Kuro. He ignores Heronia and starts to read a book, but Tia suddenly screams as a bug lands on her head, so he calmly removes it and asks if she's done playing hide and seek. Heronia becomes jealous and calls for help, claiming she can't wake up, but he ignores her and invites Tia to have tea. She accepts his invitation since he has imported sweets for her, and she forgets her plan, while Heronia curses her from behind. The next day, Tia sends Cecil to retrieve an item from a classroom, and he knows she's up to something, but he decides to go anyway. He finds Heronia there, but a student suddenly locks the door from outside, and Heronia thanks him for giving her the red rose. She speaks as if something meaningful has already happened between them, but he sees through her trap and escapes through the window, and he tells a teacher that a student is stuck in the classroom. After that, as Tia meets Cecil, she asks about his encounter with Heronia, but he explains that they're still strangers, since they haven't been formally introduced. Tia is frustrated since nothing worked despite all her efforts, so he teases her about how she's been trying to make them meet. He tells her he's been intentionally keeping his distance as part of his plan, and notes that he won't let his precious princess slip away, so she thinks she may have misunderstood everything. He feels a tightness in his chest, and doesn't understand how he feels, but he knows he doesn't want to talk to Heronia. In a flashback, we see that on the day Charles's older brother was supposed to meet his engagement candidates, he walks off with another woman, and tells Charles to take care of everything in his absence. Charles is disappointed in his older brother, but as he returns inside, he runs into a girl named Anna, who came to meet his brother, so he decides to keep her company instead. In the present, Cecil notes that Tia has spent the past year trying to push him toward Heronia, while also working on selecting his future aides. She tells him she has decided to change her approach, and explains that instead of pushing him toward Heronia, she'll pair up all the other candidates with perfect partners, so that they won't even look at her. She decides to start with Vault and Cynthia, who are already engaged, but barely know each other. They invite the couple to the stables, hoping Vault will teach Cynthia how to ride a horse, but she already knows how to do it. They realize the epidemic that was supposed to make Cynthia weak never spread, and it has ruined her plan, but Vault is impressed by Cynthia's riding skills. They get into a race to see who's the better rider, and Cecil decides to join them, but he scares Tia by taking a shortcut that goes over a broken path. Vault wins the race, and Tia's plan works, since the couple is much closer than before, but they notice Charles walking with a new girl. The next day at the academy, Charles bumps into Anna and notices she looks off, so he tries to cheer her up. But she explains that she must decide what to do with her engagement to his older brother, and she needs to do it on her own. Tia suddenly appears, and tells Anna that Charles is in love with her, so he rushes to tell Cecil about it. He confesses how he tried to forget Anna by seeing other women, because she's his elder brother's fiancé, but Tia and Anna overhear him. Tia asks Anna if love matters more to her than economic stability, and she answers yes, so Cecil notes that Charles can work hard to become his personal aide, which will grant him social status. He tells Anna he'll work hard to marry her, even if it means becoming the Demon King's loyal servant, and Cecil wonders if he's the Demon King Charles was referring to, but Tia is just glad she was able to bring them together. After that, Tia runs into Sean, who's happy since a friend gave him rare sweets, but as Joanna arrives, he becomes nervous and runs away. Tia feels bad for Joanna, and they notice their friend Silica, who gives cookies to Nelt, so Tia asks Silica to teach them how to bake cookies. As they start to practice, Tia makes decent cookies, but Joanna burns the ones she made, so they encourage her to keep trying. After a few days, she presents her cookies to Sean, who doesn't like them since they're dry, but she reveals that she made them with her own hands, so he decides to accept them. In the student council office, Nelt complains that he can't sleep at night, and he was even scolded by his father. But Silica tells him to clean his mess on the table, so he lashes out at her and tells her not to interfere with his life. Tia steps in and reminds him how Silica is always taking care of him out of love, but she drags Tia away and notes that she's at fault since she didn't maintain her distance. The next day, Nelt notices Silica's absence in his life and realizes how he never acknowledged the things she did for him. He knows he can't bear her absence, so he apologizes for messing up and asks her to always stay by his side. Tia sees everything, and she wants to have a party, but Cecil thinks she should learn from yesterday's mistake and stop interfering. She notices Sean and Joanna being friendly, so Cecil tells her he talked with him, because Sean was nervous seeing how perfect Joanna is. But after he saw her fail in baking, he realized she was just an ordinary girl. Tia is glad things turned out well, since all of Heronia's suitors have partners now, but we see Heronia watching them from a distance, and she's starting to lose her patience. At school, two girls read Tia's guide to the capital, but Heronia lies that Tia's attendants wrote it and claims that Tia bullies her out of jealousy. Meanwhile, in the council room, Cecil remembers how, according to Tia's timeline, it's about time that Heronia starts targeting her. But he gets interrupted by Durs, who has brought a plan for the middle school student council, Durs also asks Cecil if Tia can call him her dear brother, because she's been asking him for days, and refusing her hurts him as well, but Cecil doesn't allow it. The rest of the student council members arrive, and Cecil notices Charles wearing an earring, so he reveals that Tia gave it to him, and notes that she gave the others as well, which makes Cecil jealous. As Cecil has tea with Tia, he brings up how she has been wishing to call Durs her dear brother, so she explains that she was trying to draw a boundary between him and Heronia. She reveals that she didn't have a sibling in her previous life, so she really wanted to have one in this world, but Cecil asks her to call him her dear brother instead. She refuses to do it since he's her fiancé, so he tells her to call him Sil instead, and she reluctantly fulfills his request. He asks her why she didn't give him the earrings, and she tries to make an excuse, but he grabs her necklace and takes out the earrings, which match the color of their hair and eyes. She explains that he doesn't need her earrings to block Heronia's magic charm, so he wonders if she wants him to become a puppet, and notes that he wants to have control over his mind, so that he can pursue the woman he wants. She thinks the design isn't perfect, but he likes it and puts them on, and he tells Zeno to use his magic on her. Kuro becomes defensive, so Cecil tells her not to worry, and explains that the spell will make sure her earrings don't fall off. Tia thinks that if they were matching earrings, it will create problems since everyone will think they're in love, but he isn't worried about it. On his way out, he gets an order from the king, which tells him he must study in a neighboring country for 4 months. He soon arrives in the country, where a duke gives him a city tour, and he mentions that their alcohol prices are lower than in Cecil's country. But Cecil sees through their pricing trick, which hooks people with cheap alcohol before raising the price once they're dependent. He realizes he was sent to keep things in check, and thinks he's been doing well so far, but he's starting to get bored. At night, he receives a letter from Tia, who mentions that everything's fine, and Heronia is being adored by everyone. But he receives another report, which reveals that Heronia has been bullying Tia and spreading fake rumors about her. Cecil returns to the academy after a week, and Tia greets him as if nothing is wrong, but he brings up the reports he received. She dismisses everything and insists that she'll take care of it herself, but he offers to step in. She explains that she doesn't need his help, and notes that after she wins, he can comfort Heronia to win her heart. He points out how Tia is protecting the person who hurt her, but Tia notes that he should take care of his future fiancé. He makes it clear that it's his decision, but she knows it will put him against Heronia, and she doesn't want it to happen. She insists that she can handle everything herself, which makes him upset, so he leaves and notes that he lost his appetite. After a month, Cecil follows Tia's request and doesn't intervene, but he hears an argument between Tia and Heronia's supporters. Cecil notices the boys reacting like they've been affected by charm magic, and Tia's friends try to defend her, but she stops them and notes that Heronia is her prey. So everyone starts to praise her, but Heronia is angry since they're treating her like a role model. After that, Cecil sees Heronia stab Tia's chair, which Nanas had custom-made for her, so Zeno wonders if they should stop her, but Cecil reminds him that Tia didn't ask for their help. As Heronia leaves, Cecil gives her a warning to stop hurting Tia, since he could no longer control himself, and he realizes it's hard to trust others to take care of things and do nothing. In the evening, Sean bursts into the council room and asks Cecil to help Tia, but Cecil notes that he's respecting her choice, so Sean tries to push him to help her. Cecil admits that it hurts to see his fiancée suffer, but there's nothing he can do since she refused his help, so Sean wonders if he's lonely, because the person he cares about doesn't want to rely on him. Cecil starts to wonder if he has feelings for her, but Charles suddenly rushes to him, and reports that Tia has fallen down the stairs. Cecil rushes to see Tia, who assures him that she's okay, and he asks her what happened. So she explains that she was carrying things out of the student council office, when one of her fans named Fail offered to help her. Cecil takes note of his name for investigation, and she tells him how she accidentally bumped into a girl and fell down the stairs. She assures him she's fine, since Kuro's magic protected her, but he wonders if she saw the girl's face, so she reveals that she didn't, but her hair was pink like Heronia's. Instead of being angry, she thinks it's inevitable that Heronia and the Villainess will always be at odds, but Cecil finally gives up on staying uninvolved. So he tells her that if she insists on acting freely, he'll also start acting on his own will to protect his fiancée. In the council room, Cecil asks everyone to help him get revenge, so they're glad he has decided to make his move, and Sean thinks they should head straight to Heronia. Cecil shocks them by saying she isn't the mastermind, since her usual style is to damage Tia's reputation from the shadows, and he notes that the real culprit is a girl named Island Silberts. After a few days, Heronia confronts Tia in the garden and accuses her of staging the stair incident. Durs asks Cecil if it was part of his plan, so he admits it's a pure coincidence, but it will benefit them since they have already set the plan in motion. He explains that the harassment started from Island's one-sided crush on Fannel and her jealousy over his admiration for Tia, but Heronia continues to accuse Tia, so Cecil decides to step in. Heronia uses her charm magic on him, but Kuro's protective magic blocks it, and he notes that Tia never claimed it was Heronia who pushed her. He explains that someone else took advantage of the tension between them, and Island prepares to leave, but Fannel stops her, and Cecil exposes her identity. She explains that Heronia is the real culprit, but the student council arrives with evidence, and Joanna reveals that they've been watching her for days. Cynthia notes that she would walk into a room, but Heronia would come out instead, which makes everyone think she's been using a false identity to throw blame on her. She denies their accusations, so they call Nelt for physical evidence, but he becomes shy since there are a lot of people. So Silica tells him to relax and imagine that he's just talking to her. He shows everyone a chemical they found hidden in the closet, which Island visited frequently, and he explains that it's colorless, but it changes color when mixed with another chemical. He asks Island and Heronia to give them their shoes, so that they can perform the test, and the moment the chemical touches Island's shoe, the color changes immediately. Everyone realizes she was the one who went to the closet, but she claims that the entire council conspired to frame her, so he asks her why they would do that. He mentions that the dormitory has just been thoroughly cleaned, so she must be carrying the disguise with her, and Durs snatches the sack she has been protecting. She tells him to give it back, but he opens it and shows everyone her pink wig, which proves that she disguised herself as Heronia. Fannel tells her he hates her, which breaks her heart, but as everything comes to a conclusion, Heronia wonders why Cecil isn't comforting her. He explains that he's only concerned about Tia, which causes Heronia to lose it, and she blames Tia for ruining the story. She notes that he can only be happy with her, because she's the Maiden of Destiny, which makes Cecil wonder if there's a reason why he must end up with her. As Heronia storms off, Tia falls unconscious, so everyone becomes worried, and Cecil takes her to the room, where he learns that she couldn't sleep after she was pushed down the stairs. He doesn't want to lose her, since life without her would be boring, and when she wakes up, she sees him and thinks she must be dreaming. But he explains that she collapsed from exhaustion, and notes that everyone's waiting to see her. They all visit her and explain that they were worried about her, but she doesn't understand what's happening, so Cecil tells her they're all on her side. She notes that she'll work hard to understand why they keep trying to cheer her up, which makes them laugh, but Cecil thinks it's the kind of atmosphere she deserves to be surrounded with. After 2 months, the Academy holds a culture fair based on Tia's idea, and Cecil decides to enjoy the event. But Zeno tells him his real entertainment is watching Tia enjoy it, so he steps on Zeno's foot. Cecil runs into Joanna, who reveals that the stair incident is being treated as attempted murder, so Island has been locked away. She admits that she was once worried about Tia because of Cecil's cold personality, but she's happy that he's changed, and she tells him to always make Tia happy. He wonders why the students are casting votes, so she tells him there's a competition for the best couple, and the winner will be announced at the end of the fair. In the garden, Cecil takes Tia's hand and admits he felt lonely, since he couldn't see her all day, and he kisses her hand. She happily eats beside him, and he wipes cream from her lips, while the other students watch them. At the end of the fair, Tia announces the results, with the third place going to Vault and Cynthia, alongside Nelt and Silica, while the second place goes to Sean and Joanna. She confidently declares Cecil and herself the winners, but as she realizes the situation, she becomes too embarrassed to carry on. Cecil walks onto the stage, and he thanks everyone, but he shocks them by kissing her on the cheek. After that, Tia and Cecil watch the fireworks, as she notes that he has turned harmless memories into an unforgettable public disaster. He apologizes and admits that he was happy they were chosen together, and he wonders if she feels differently, so she admits that she's also happy. As the fireworks light up the sky, he quietly promises himself that no matter how chaotic the future becomes, he won't let their memories together turn into something painful. We see that Cecil has reached his 3rd year, while Tia has entered high school, but she has suddenly started to avoid him. He thinks it's because of what Heronia said, so he pins her to the wall, and she finally confesses that she needs to stay away from him, since they'll say goodbye to each other after a year. She thinks the compelling forces have already begun to take action to return everything to the original story, since she's been gaining weight just like her character in the game. But he tells her it's because of the sweets she's been eating, since everyone has been giving them to her to befriend her. He thinks she just needs to eat less sweets, but she refuses to share them with her friends, so he reminds her that to become a true villainess, she needs to stay by his side. She doesn't understand what he means, since her goal is for Heronia to end up with him, but he explains that if she truly wants to become a great villainess, she should selfishly want him all to herself. She suddenly starts to cry, as she reveals that she wants to maintain her distance from him so that she won't get hurt when he leaves her forever. He realizes it's the real reason she's been avoiding him, so he assures her he won't be cold toward her, and promises to take care of everything. In the student council office, Cecil asks Durs about Heronia, because he heard that she's been visiting him often. He reveals that she has been asking if Tia and her family have committed crimes, and the others share how she keeps trying to break their relationships, so they think they should teach her a lesson. But Cecil notes that they shouldn't gang up on her, and suggests just letting her fall into their defensive trap. He tells Durs that the next time she asks about Tia's family, he shouldn't confirm or deny anything, and he thinks Tia's downfall is supposed to happen during graduation, so Heronia must be planning something for that moment. At night, Cecil asks his father if he heard anything about a Maiden of Destiny, since he came across the term while investigating something. But the king can't recall anything about it, so Cecil thinks the prophecy must be fake. He notes that his fiancé makes him happy, so his father realizes he was right to choose Tia for him, and he tells him he'll always be there for him. On his way out, Cecil realizes he's anxious for the first time, but he thinks he'll be fine, since he has finished his preparations. 3 months before graduation, Cecil offers to buy Tia a dress, but she tells him he should buy it for Heronia instead. He reminds her that she's his partner, and asks about the color of the dress she wants, so she notes that she likes yellow and blue. But she wants her dress to be black and red, since she thinks it's the perfect color for a villainess. He wonders if she no longer likes yellow, so she explains that she loves blue and yellow, but the colors hold fond memories for her, and she doesn't want them to be stained with pain. He tells her to forget about the whole scenario, but she explains that she can't, since she thinks she and her father need to suffer for their crimes. Cecil knows she and her father have done nothing wrong, and Tia gives him a diary with the proof of her villainous deeds, but as he goes through it, he thinks about how none of it actually happened. There's a mention of a tea etiquette class, where nobody wanted to pair with Heronia, so Tia volunteered and taught her proper manners. He knows that Heronia didn't treat Tia well since she didn't like her, but in the diary, Tia wrote that she bullied Heronia. He realizes her diary is filled with nonsense, but she really thinks it's a weapon he could use against her, so he loses control over his emotions, and asks her why she keeps pushing him away. She explains it's because she cares for him, and he asks her about her idea of his happiness, so she notes that it's staying with Heronia forever. He realizes she's the first person he's ever hated, and she becomes emotional, as she tells him she knows what will happen to him in the future. He thinks he should just destroy the destiny, but she knows he'll regret it, and he mentions that if she really wants to stop him, she needs to explain why he needs to end up with Heronia, but he knows she can't tell him, so he just tells her he'll choose her dress himself. He reminds her that she started the game the day they first met, so she should sit back and watch it till the end. She wants him to be happy, so he assures her he'll find happiness, but tells her to stop running away. Graduation day finally arrives, and Tia wears the dress Cecil chose for her, and he tells her it suits her well. She wonders what he truly feels for her, so he tells her he finds her adorable, but he gets interrupted as they're suddenly called in. He tells her they'll continue their discussion, and she stops to thank him for everything he's done for her, but he's determined not to let their time together come to an end. The graduation ceremony begins, and Cecil delivers a speech to his fellow graduates, which impresses his parents. But they know he's up to something, and they're worried that he might screw up. He appoints Durs as the next student council president, so he promises to carry out his duties, but he tells Cecil that everything's ready. So he announces that he has another declaration, and calls Tia to join him on stage. She becomes so nervous that she stumbles, but she tells everyone she's okay, and thinks Cecil is about to expose her wrongdoings and ruin her life. He notes that she has committed a serious crime, so she explains that it isn't true, but he tells her to be silent and reveals that her crime is that she's 2 years younger than him. He explains that he needs to wait 2 years before she graduates, which is why it's a terrible crime, and he notes that to atone for it, she must marry him after her graduation. He brings out a ring and puts it on her finger, and she can't believe what's happening, but Heronia suddenly interrupts them. She notes that Tia is a terrible person because she has bullied a lot of people and even pushed her down the stairs the previous day. He explains that it's impossible since Tia was in her room when it happened, and she even had servants watching her every move. Heronia thinks she ordered someone to do it, so he promises to investigate what happened and asks her about the details, but she can't name anyone. He wonders why she accused Tia if she doesn't even know who did it, and asks her if she has evidence that Tia is a bully, so she tells her friends to testify against Tia. But they don't come forward, since they know their social standing will be affected. He tells her to stop accusing Tia, but she pulls out a report from under her skirt and tells him to read it, but he doesn't want to touch it since he knows where it came from. Zeno opens it for him, and he realizes it's about Nadas, so he thinks she hired people to look into him. Tia thinks her life is about to be ruined, but Cecil notices her reaction and realizes she doesn't want to lose her father. Heronia explains that Nadas is a criminal, and since Tia is his daughter, she isn't qualified to be their future queen. Cecil admits that the report she gave him proves that crimes were committed, but he notes that Nadas is innocent, and it was actually Sabir and the others who broke the law. She thinks Nadas should also be punished since he's connected to them, and tells Durs to testify against him, but he explains that he knows nothing. He notes that he didn't even pay attention to her when she spoke of her suspicions, but she tells him to stop lying, since she knows Nadas made him suffer for years. Cecil realizes she's just like Tia, since she expects everything to align with the scenario in the game, and he reveals that he ordered Nadas to investigate the criminals, which explains why he's connected to them. She falls into despair, so Cecil tells her to calm down, and his guards prepare to take her away, but she explains that Tia won't be able to replace her as the heroine. She notes that she's the only one who can turn him into a human, and explains that she followed everything that happened in the game, so she doesn't understand why he still hasn't fallen for her. He tells her he isn't interested in her, but she becomes angry, and explains that he's an android prince who will destroy himself out of boredom if he doesn't choose her. He has no idea what she's talking about, and Tia tells him not to listen to her, so he orders his guards to take her away. But the roof suddenly shatters, so Kuro and Zeno protect their masters from the falling glass. Heronia's light spirit descends toward them, so Kuro stops it with her barrier, and it suddenly disappears. Kuro deactivates her barrier, but Zeno tells her it isn't over yet, and the spirit suddenly charges at Cecil. It breaks his earring, and Tia panics as he collapses, but he suddenly finds himself in a strange place. He sees a light, which takes him back to the moment he first met Tia, but he realizes she's different since she doesn't have her confidence. As they have tea together, she tells him she'll do her best to become a woman worthy of him, but she doesn't eat the cakes, and explains that she just wants to spend time with him. After she leaves, Zeno asks him what he thinks of her, but he explains that he'll just follow his father's decision, and notes that he has no problems with her becoming the future queen. Cecil returns to the present, but he wonders why the scene doesn't match his memory, and he thinks Tia is the only thing that's different, since she didn't even declare that she's the villainess. He notices that his arm feels strange, but when he takes off his glove, he's confused seeing that his hand is turned into wood. He recalls how Heronia told him he's an android prince, and he knows it's true, because he used to be a living doll with no emotions. But he thinks things are different, since Tia has changed him. He knows the Tia he saw wasn't real, and thinks the light spirit was the one who showed it to him, but he can feel himself becoming emotionless again. He sees the time the epidemic ravaged the land, and we learn that in the game, the kingdom couldn't do anything since their supply of the Luana leaf was limited. Nadas begged the king to give him a leaf, since he needed it to save his wife, but the king refused to give him special treatment, because he knew that countless people were suffering because of the disease. Cecil tells his father he did the right thing, because the people wouldn't be happy if he gave Nadas a leaf, but he thinks he lost the right to be Nadas's friend. Nadas's wife dies from the disease, and he notes that he gave everything to the royal family, but they didn't do anything to help his wife. He tells Tia she must become queen, since it's the only way to ensure the royal family will protect her, and he notes that he'll do whatever it takes to make it happen. We see Tia's maid fixing her hair, but she doesn't like it and tells her father the maid is trying to embarrass her. He immediately fires her, and Cecil sees her cry as she leaves, so he asks Tia what happened. Tia reveals that they fired her, and Cecil notices they changed after Nautilus's wife died, but thinks it doesn't matter since they aren't causing trouble. As Cecil makes his way to Tia's tea party, it's where he notices Heronia chasing her light spirit, and he finds her interesting. He realizes she's a new student, so he gives her a rose and congratulates her on her enrollment, and Zeno can't believe he took an interest in her, since he doesn't usually care about anyone. After that, we see Cecil walking around the garden, but he notices Heronia sleeping under a tree, and he wakes her up. He tells her she isn't supposed to sleep there, and wonders if she's also there to watch the roses, so she explains that she walked around, but fell asleep after she rested under the tree. He introduces himself to her, and she realizes she's talking to the crown prince, so she apologizes for being rude. She explains that she didn't see him at the entrance ceremony, since she was sitting at the back when he gave his speech. But he tells her it's okay, and notes that she can make it up to him by watching the roses with him. Their relationship deepens, and he starts to see her as his toy, but Tia learns about it, so she becomes jealous and bullies her. Cecil sees it, so he thinks about getting rid of Tia, and he tells Durs he wants to save him, because he knows Durs is being forced to commit crimes. On the night before the graduation ceremony, Cecil gives Heronia a dress, and notes that he wants her to stand by his side during the event, so she blushes and tells him she loves him, but he can't understand his feelings for her, and hopes she doesn't disappoint him. During the ceremony, Cecil calls Heronia on stage, and she tells everyone that Tia has been bullying her. Tia plays dumb, but Cecil reveals that he has evidence, and Heronia notes that she has other victims, who all raise their hands. Cecil tells her to defend herself, and she realizes she's cornered, but she explains that they can't punish her, since she's the future queen. But he orders the guards to arrest her father, and notes that he has evidence that Nautilus's committed crimes. Cecil explains that since her father is a criminal, he can't trust her with the future of his kingdom, and he breaks off their engagement. She starts to lose it, but he suddenly remembers the real Tia, so he hugs her, and notes that it's all just a dream. He manages to escape the light spirit's illusion, and realizes he's back to normal, but he sees the spirit crying. Cecil realizes he's about to disappear, since his body is transparent, and he begs Cecil to choose Heronia, but he reveals that he hates her for everything she's done. He explains that if she had just accepted the changed future, everyone would have liked her, and she could have found happiness. But she lost everything since she took the wrong path, and he thinks she'll be alone after the spirit disappears. The spirit realizes it's all over for him, so he asks Cecil to tell Heronia he'll always be there for her, even though she can no longer see him. Cecil sees his memories with her as he disappears, so he becomes sad, and hopes he can fix everything in the real world. Cecil wakes up, but he realizes Tia wants to cut her hair and become a nun, so he becomes confused. The girls explain that she went crazy after he passed out, and she thought she could save him by entering the convent, so he calms her down. She's glad he's finally awake, and he tells her not to enter the convent, since she needs to fulfill her role as the crown princess. He explains that he has chosen her, so his future with Heronia will never happen, but she worries about other events in the story. He tells everyone to leave, but asks Charles and Joanna what happened before he collapsed, so they tell him how a bird attacked him. He explains that it was the light spirit in disguise, and he's surprised they didn't notice it, because they already know about spirits. He wants Tia to tell him everything, and notes that she can change the future, but she starts to cry, because she thinks the kingdom will suffer now that he rejected Heronia. He tells her it won't happen, and explains that he wants to improve the kingdom, so that he can have a better future with her. She agrees to tell him everything, and reveals that the graduation ceremony was a judgment event, where Heronia would choose who she wanted to end up with. He learns that Heronia prepared a yellow dress, because she wanted to be with him, but he thinks she's an idiot, since they aren't even following the events in the game. Tia notes that in the Cecil route, the Villainess is the only one who doesn't get a happy ending, but things are different in the other routes. She reveals that in the Vault route, a neighboring country attacks the kingdom, and Cecil joins his army to drive them away. Vault becomes sad after he loses his comrades, but Heronia cheers him up, and tells him she's proud of him. The kingdom defeats the invaders, but Cecil doesn't want to end the war, so he invades another country, and kills its strongest general on the battlefield. The enemy soldiers realize they can't defeat him, so they run for their lives, but Vault thinks he has gone mad, since he sacrificed his soldiers and was reckless. He explains that it doesn't matter since the strategy worked, and he thinks about how to replace the soldiers he lost, so Vault realizes he has become addicted to war, and he now treats people like his pawns. Vault starts to doubt his master, but Heronia supports him, and they live a peaceful life after the kingdom conquers the other countries. Cecil thinks it was because he didn't find anything interesting in that timeline, so he got bored and invaded the other countries, but he knows it won't happen now that he has Tia. He asks her about the other routes, and she tells him not to worry, since they aren't as scary as the Vault route. She reveals that in the Sean route, Cecil is so bored with his duties that he leaves the kingdom, and the king is killed by poison, so Sean is forced to take the throne. He becomes scared when a country tries to invade them, so Heronia supports him, and they win the first campaign. But they lose the battles that followed, since Sean wasn't suited for war. In Nelt's route, Cecil helps him finish the prototype he's working on, and he locks himself in the lab, since he has become obsessed with minerals and black powder. When the neighboring country attacks the kingdom, Cecil and Nelt use their prototype to obliterate them, and Nelt ends up with Heronia. Tia reveals that in Charles's route, Cecil disappears after he follows someone suspicious, and Charles and Heronia head to another country for diplomacy. They find Cecil in an alley, and he tells them the country is their enemy, so Charles orders the soldiers to invade it, and he gets a happy ending with Heronia. At the beginning of Durs's route, Cecil is immediately assassinated, and Durs works with Heronia to investigate the enemy country. They learn that the country ordered the assassination, so they gather the kingdom's forces to invade them and avenge Cecil by winning the war. Cecil realizes Tia tried to push him to be with Heronia, since his route is the only one without a war, but he knows the reason that he did ridiculous things in the other timelines was because he didn't find anything interesting. He thinks he's a terrible person, but Tia tells him it isn't true, and notes that he's nothing like his character in the game. He hugs her and notes that he'll become anything she wants him to be, but she explains that she's worried about their future, since he didn't end up with the Maiden of Destiny. He recalls how Heronia told him a mark would appear on her arm after he kissed her, so he tells Zeno they need to give Tia proof, and takes her to the balcony. He asks her if she loves him, and she doesn't want to answer since she's the Villainess, but he tells her he loves her, and calls her his Maiden of Destiny. He kisses her, which flusters her, and a mark appears on her hand, but Kuro suddenly pushes him back. He tells her to look at her left hand, and she's surprised to see the mark, which makes her wonder if she's the Maiden of Destiny. She thinks it's impossible, but he explains that it's proof he has chosen her, and reveals that spirits can give blessings to their master's soulmates. He explains that it will alert him when she's in danger, and help him find her wherever she goes, so she can never run away from him again. He tells her to surrender herself to him, but she becomes excited since she learns something new, and notes that she'll keep him entertained, so that he won't do anything ridiculous. She orders Kuro to give him a mark as well, so she hits his hand, and he tells her they're soulmates now, but she becomes embarrassed as she realizes what she just got herself into. Cecil visits Heronia in her room, and she thinks he's there since he wants to be with her, but he explains that he just wants to talk. She wonders if he was impressed by her pet bird, and she thinks she must be special since a divine creature acknowledged her. But Cecil tells her it isn't true, since there are multiple spirit masters. She wonders why spirits weren't mentioned in the game, so he explains that only the elite members of society know about them, and they're keeping it a secret from the government. He notes that her light spirit showed him the correct future, but explains that things are different, because Tia has become his Maiden of Destiny. Heronia thinks Tia ruined everything by changing the scenario, but he explains that she's just as guilty, because she's nothing like her character in the game. He explains that her character was a country lady who adjusted to life in the academy, while she's just a girl who lacks manners, and he thinks she isn't worthy to represent the kingdom. She becomes upset hearing this, and wonders what happened to her light spirit, so Cecil explains that he's gone, since he sacrificed his life to protect her. She starts to lose it, so Cecil realizes they had a strong relationship, and he tells her about his last words. He gives her a memento, telling her it contains a fragment of her spirit's soul, and we learn that he used Zeno's power to create it. After that, they appear before the king, who decides to send Heronia to the convent as punishment. Cecil adds that she has been stripped of her nobility, so she will go there as a commoner, and he asks her to pick a convent. The first option is a convent to the north, where the environment is harsh, and the second one is just south of the capital, where the weather is more forgiving. The king thinks it's an obvious choice, but Cecil adds that there's said to be a divine power in the north, which can bring people back from the dead. Heronia recalls the moments she spent with her light spirit and decides to go there, but the king notes that she'll stay at the academy until the arrangements have been made. As she walks away, Cecil thinks she's no longer the heroine, and he's glad he was able to give her a choice, since he knows Tia wanted her to be happy. A few days later, Tia asks Cecil about Heronia, so he tells her everything that happened, and notes that she has left for the northern convent. Tia thinks she's amazing, since she chose the harsher option for her light spirit, but he tells her they're alone, so she thinks he'll try something with her. Their spirits suddenly interrupt him, and he realizes he can't get rid of them, but he explains that he won't do anything until they get married. After that, Cecil tells Tia to be his bride, but she thinks she isn't fit to be queen, since she just wanted to be the villainess. But he convinces her, and she decides to devote herself to helping him become a great king, and promises to stay by his side. He notes that the marks on their hands will never disappear, and tells her she's his maiden of destiny, so he wants to spend the rest of his life with her, but we learn that there's something he isn't telling her. In a flashback to a few days earlier, we see Cecil drinking with his father, who asks him if he likes Tia, so he notes that she's the only one who can make him happy. He can tell that his father is hiding something from him, and he wants to know what it is. So his father tells him there were people like him in the royal family, who were born with exceptional talents but lacked emotion. They showed little interest in everything, so they looked for something that could bring out their emotions. The king reveals that it all started with the kingdom's founder Tojin, the man known as the Hero King, but was actually a bloodthirsty ruler. We learn that his marriage to Queen Ane was arranged with a friendly tribe, and she always asked him to play with her, but he didn't show much interest in her. He learned a battle game and found it interesting, so he became deeply absorbed in it, but a war suddenly broke out between the tribes. He led the troops into battle when he was finally of age, and became addicted to war, but Ane told him to stop taking lives. So he decided to let go of his addiction, and spent the rest of his days building a peaceful kingdom. Cecil realizes she was his maiden of destiny, and the king notes that Ane was able to stop him because he was emotionally invested in her. After he passed away, people like him have been born into the royal family, but the king notes that they were double-edged swords, since they had the potential to become evil if they became addicted to the wrong things. He knows Cecil is like Tojin because he showed exceptional talent at a young age, and the king was worried he wouldn't find happiness. So he arranged his marriage with Tia, who was the exact opposite of him. He's glad she was able to bring him happiness, and notes that he wants Cecil to take on more official duties, since he's a brilliant child. He promises to do his best for the kingdom, but his father gets drunk and passes out, and he decides not to tell Tia about his true nature, since he knows it will change how she behaves. His mother realizes her husband has passed out, so she helps carry him away, and Cecil thanks them for always looking after him. After 2 years, Cecil heads to Tia's house to pay his respects to her family, because it's almost time for their wedding. But her brother Aneth notes that he won't let Cecil have her. Cecil realizes he has a sister complex, and he explains that Cecil can't be with Tia, since she's the villainess. He reveals that he heard her talk about it while she was sleeping, but Cecil notes that his destiny is to be with her, so Aneth starts to cry. He notes that he doesn't want her to end up with the Demon King, but Cecil notes that the Demon King and Villainess would make a good couple, and he tells Aneth that Tia will still be his sister after they get married. He explains that she'll no longer stay in the house, but her family can visit her whenever they want, and he promises to make sweets for Aneth when he drops by. He allows Cecil to marry her, but Nanas tells him he wants to drink with him, since he wants to talk to him about the future. On the day of the wedding, Tia and Cecil head to the church, and a maid tells Tia to go inside. Kuro approaches Cecil, and gives him a list of the things Tia wants to do in her wedding, and he decides to do what he can, in order to fulfill her wishes. We see Cecil in the church, and Tia walks down the aisle with her father, as Cecil recalls the moment he first met her. He takes her from Nanas, who suddenly stops him, and begs him to take care of her. She becomes so nervous that she trips, but Cecil catches her, and notes that he'll be there to support her. The priest starts to give a speech, but Cecil finds it boring, and he thinks about what to do on their honeymoon. The king gives them their wedding rings, and Cecil puts one onto Tia, because he knows she wants him to do it. She does the same for him, and he recites his vows and kisses her, but she becomes frozen in place. He asks her to recite her vows as well, so she swears to love him forever and ends it with a kiss. He suddenly gets a strange feeling, and he can't understand what it is, but she realizes he's becoming shy, so she finds him amusing. They sign their marriage certificate, and the priest notes that the wedding is over, but Cecil thinks he still needs to fulfill Tia's other wishes. He carries her through the crowd, since he knows she wants to be carried like a princess, and the girls are happy for them. But the boys think they need to get stronger, since they also need to carry their partners when they get married. Outside the church, the ladies gather for the bouquet toss, since they think the one who catches it will be married next. Tia throws the bouquet, and the girls start to fight over it, but Kuro ends up catching it, and she returns it to her master. Tia tells her they are playing fetch, but notes that since she caught it, she'll be the next to get married, and Cecil notices that she likes Zeno. Tia and Cecil ride through the city, as the people throw flowers for them, and Tia thinks it's like a dream come true. We learn that she wanted a flower shower, so Zeno talked to a flower spirit, who gave him enough petals to make her happy, and Cecil realizes everyone's enjoying it as well. He fulfills her other wishes, and at night, she asks him how he knew everything she wanted, so he reveals that Kuro gave him her list. She becomes embarrassed, but he explains that it made their day memorable, and she thanks him for fulfilling all of her wishes. A few days later, they leave for their honeymoon, and we see cans attached to their carriage, since Tia wanted to make noise while they were leaving. They see a rabbit family, and she imagines what kind of children she'll have with Cecil, but she becomes embarrassed since he's listening to her. He notes that he wants his daughter to look just like her, and asks her to build a family with him, so she promises to do her best for him. 1 year later, we learn that Tia has been busy, because countless nobles have been asking her about the things she did at her wedding. She published a wedding magazine for those planning to get married, and Cecil writes that he never gets bored with her, since she's always full of surprises, but she suddenly calls out to him, and reveals that they're pregnant. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.